This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Afternoon, it's Nordo in for PA now on a Wednesday morning. PA joining us from London, 10:45-ish. And we've been assured that in a land with no air conditioning and awful Wi-Fi, that the connection today will be significantly better than it was yesterday. But that is yet to be seen. We'll get to the TimberTech set list and how things are going to lay out for you on a 9 to noon Wednesday. Thanks for joining. And joining me now is Michael Russo, The Athletic, theathletic.com, at Russo Hockey. News of the day yesterday as we were fishing our way through some Vikings-related bits. Minnesota Wild kind of just took everything over yesterday with the 8-year, $136 million contract consummated between Kirill Kaprizov, Bill Guerin, Chill Bill, and the Minnesota Wild. Mr. Russo, good morning, and how celebratory was it yesterday over in St. Paul?
Yeah, big time. I mean, even on the ice during the morning skate, it was so obvious to see they had another hop in their step during the game. He got a nice ovation from the fans and you know, in typical Kirill manner, you know, smiled humbly to the crowd and gave him a couple waves. So it was cool. The press conference between Kirill and Bill Guerin was definitely entertaining, as it usually is, starting right from the top when Jesse Pierce asked if Kirill was excited, and Billy said, you know, he effing better be, which is such a perfect line. So yeah, it was definitely a big day for the organization. You know, I still think, you know, I know that I think if you put, you know, Craig Leopold's hand on the Bible, he'll still tell you that, you know, the Parisi Suter Day is what really legitimized this franchise and the health of the franchise. But yesterday was just to invest that type of money into a player, to do an unprecedented contract, at least in Minnesota Wild history, where you're giving a player just $1 million in terms of actual salary through over the course of the next 8 years, but writing him just ginormous checks, on the first day of really the fiscal year for the NHL, July 1. That's an enormous commitment by the ownership group. And, you know, the other big thing here is that you know, he's the only player that I can think of in NHL history that got actually 20%, the max 20% of the salary that you can get in the signing year. So they, in the next 4 years, in actual money, are going to be paying him $19.1 million a year in actual money. And I know that that's probably, you know, calls into comparison to other sports, obviously the NBA, Major League Baseball, you know, quarterbacks and football. But this is definitely a groundbreaking deal in terms of the National Hockey League. And it's going to definitely cause the, you know, players behind them to now get significant pay bumps. Like I guarantee you that Kyle Connor, Jack Eichel, you know, Adrian Kempe, Alex Tuck, or Temi Panarin, they were all applauding this yesterday, and certainly the agents, because now they probably at a minimum made $1 million or $2 million more on their next contracts. Yeah,
how much is Connor McDavid going to make now? Clearly, as you were referencing the max 20%, whatever that lays out as, I guess.
Well, you know, it's funny because Barrero asked me yesterday, you know, will Kirill just be the highest paid player for a week? You know, inferring that Connor would get more. And I actually think that Kirill Kaprizov will be the highest paid player in the National Hockey League next year, because all signs point toward, if Connor McDavid signs a short-term deal with the Edmonton Oilers, that he's going to do it in a way that allows them to, in that window, to really be competitive. And so he's probably, and the way it works is that, you know, if you sign a shorter-term deal, you're usually getting a little lower AAV. You stretch it out, you get the higher by stretching out the term. Yeah. And so actually, in terms of actual dollars, if Connor stays in Edmonton, I think he's actually going to come in at less than $17 million per. Now, if he goes elsewhere on the open market, he's probably getting more. So I actually think that if Connor stays in Edmonton, you know, I think that this is still good, that Kirill is actually going to be the highest paid player in the NHL for some time.
Wow. Okay. Well, you know, Chill Bill Guerin, the general manager, always mum on this thing consistently over the course of the summer, and in a lot of ways very dismissive, of course, right? I mean, you've been on site, on scene for all of this, asking him the questions, and he just won't say anything. And, you know, that's kind of the merry-go-round of this process. But does it feel to you now that it's done that it was always kind of inevitable, or it wasn't as tenuous as the general manager kind of laying it out like, hey, just chill, we're going to get it done. Was it always that easy?
Yeah, I don't think it was an easy process. I talked to Craig Leopold for a while yesterday, and when Kirill didn't accept that $16 million a year deal on September 9th, I think there was a lot of pause between Bill Guerin and Craig Leopold as to where this was going. Did he want to be here? Was he just trying to squeeze every penny he could from the Wild? All that type of stuff. And I don't think that Bill Guerin ever planned to really just start offering more and more money. But at the end of the day, Craig Leopold gave him permission to do it, and he's the boss. It's his money. And I think they went to a number that I don't think Bill Guerin or Matt Sells, their assistant GM, ever thought that they'd go to. And actually the Wild, the one thing that I did learn through sources yesterday is the Wild initially offered this $17 million a year, and it was countered for more, and the Wild stood firm. And obviously, came to an agreement with Kirill yesterday. So I think what the Wild had always hoped came into fruition, and that's that Kirill would be the one to eventually instruct his agent to get it done. And so he did. Paul Theophanis came back, and Paul works hard for his clients, and did a great job for Kirill here, and was able to get it done. And look, I get there's a lot of concern out there by some fans about now how you continue to build a winner around this team. When you give a player essentially 18% of your cap. Now the cap is going to continue to go up. There's a lot of agents out there that actually believe that the NHL, remember these cap figures for the next 2 years, 104 and 113.5. They're actually just projections. They've got to eventually audit league revenues, and that's how they decide the 50-50 split between players and owners, and that'll determine the cap. And the business is great in the National Hockey League this year. And I think there's a lot of people that believe that those figures actually could go up. So if they go up and up, let's just say it's, 110 next year, not 104, and 120 and not 113.5. In 3-4 years, we could be talking about a cap that's in the 130 range or something. And now suddenly the Wild look like they're getting Kirill on a really good price, and it allows you to really fill out the rest of the roster. So that's what they're hoping. The Wild still believe that they're going to have the ability, especially with all their young kids, whether you can lure a free agent here or use some of these young kids, whether current players on the roster or some of their prospects, to maybe land that big fish in a trade. They still think that they're going to be able to complement Kirill with some really good players around them. Plus, they have a bunch of really good players now between Brock Faber and Matt Boldy and Joel Eriksson Ek and Marco Rossi and Z Boyum coming up, and some of these young kids that look like they might be taking a step this year. And some of the young kids also that we're finally going to maybe get to see in this team this year, from Danila Yurov to Liam Ogren to David Juracek. I think they still feel like they have the ability in the next 3 or 4 years to really build a true contender here. And I think you want to do that in the early part of the window, because usually, unless you're Sidney Crosby or Alex Ovechkin, usually guys age. And, so I think that the early part of this window with Kirill Kaprizov, you really want to try to be aggressive and turn this team into a true contender.
Now, good times, bad times, just one or two more for you here. Good times, bad times with the Zuccarello injury, out 2 months. Brodin kind of following that steam, and it sounds like there's actually been positive revelations to that, where maybe he's going to be available sooner than initially expected, maybe a month ago or something. But from a Zuccarello standpoint, I'll admit, even within the last 2 weeks, this wasn't necessarily on my radar. And, 2 weeks ago, I didn't know I'd be missing him for 2 months. What's up with Zuki?
Yeah, I think that all of us, we show up to the first day of camp and we don't see him. And it just was when he wasn't in the scrimmage on his line that he was supposed to be on, you just knew something was up, and Bill Guerin fessed up to it. And, I believe he had surgery last week. I think that's actually a good thing. I think every Wild fan lived the Kirill Kaprizov thing last year, where he tried to rehab for a month and a half, and then eventually needed to go under the knife. This way, you get it done. Now you have a firm timeline. Zuki will be back, and the way that Zuki plays, he'll be as good as new. That's just always the way he is, even at his age. And hey, also at his age, it might be better for him to play 60 games as opposed to trying to gut through 82, and maybe that'll keep him from tiring out toward the end of the year. So I actually don't think this is the worst thing, provided that one of these young kids lasso that spot. Last night, Liam Ogren got a look there. Danilo Yurov got a look there. Neither of them have produced throughout the preseason. but Danilo looked much better there than maybe Ogren. Ogren was on the ice for 2 goals, but he had nothing to do with either of those. That one was a turnover by Juracek, the other was a lost puck battle by Tarasenko, and then a loose coverage in front and behind the net by the defenseman. So I think that this will be fine as long as one of these young kids step up. If not, they're going to go back to the old well and put like Marcus Johansson there, and I don't necessarily think that's a great thing. So. Again, the Wild have cap space. So if this becomes something that Bill Guerin looks at and says it's an issue that needs to be addressed, he's going to have that ability to do so this year. And that's the good thing about not going and doing what they did the last couple of years. They don't have the dead cap space anymore. So now they are going into the season where right now they have cap space. They'll be able to accrue money as long as they don't get devastated by injury to start the year. And I think, Bill Guerin, if he sees an issue there, will have the ability to go out and try to fix it.
Well, my last question for you, and I guess you kind of covered it. I was just kind of thinking, like, what's popping? Because you mentioned those young kids, and that means a ton in terms of, over the next 3-4 years trying to build a contender. I think about Spurgeon's age at this point. I love Spurgeon, now wishing away a career, but 35, ain't 25. Brodin at 32. Like, you start kind of playing some of those games, which I'm sure Guerin and the front office has done, but that means I need to see a lot from Zeev. Zeev sounds like he's coming along, but Juracek, you mentioned the giveaway and such. You're off, excited to see him.
Yeah.
Anything popping with these kids?
Yeah, Juracek concerns me. Like, he just, there's decisions that he makes every night that's costing them goals. I mean, and you see the raw talent, and I don't think skating is nearly as an issue as was advertised when the Wild made the trade. But his decision-making, his hockey sense has become, I think, troublesome. So, last night I thought Bogosian looked good on the left with him. So we'll see how that works. Maybe they just, maybe Juracek just makes the team or plays a little in the minors, but makes the team, and they sign Jack Johnson. You have a Johnson, Bogosian third pair, and you try to slowly work Juracek along here. I thought Boyan was great last night. I thought he was great specifically with Spurgeon. I think that has the ability until Brodin is back to being a really good pair. You put anybody with Jared Spurgeon, he's going to make you really comfortable. And I thought that Zeev looked great last night. So, he had an injury at the start of camp. I think his first couple games were work in progress. I thought he looked awesome last night. I think Yurov, production might take a while for him, but he is such a solid two-way forward that I think you could put him on the team and never feel uncomfortable with him on the ice in big situations. He's good on the penalty kill. I think he eventually could play the power play if they want him to. Right now I like what I see in camp. They got off to a great start last year until they got devastated by injury. So we'll see if they could do it again. They were a tough schedule to start, but last year they had a 7-game road trip to start the season too, and they came back and they lost 1 game from that entire road trip, if I remember correctly. So I'm not totally concerned about that 5-game trip to start the year. But they got to get points. And as we know in the National Hockey League, you don't make the playoffs in October and November, but you can certainly lose it. So they've got to get off to a good start.
Hey, thanks for all you're doing on short notice, jumping on with me this morning. Looking forward to seeing what you got via The Athletic, and we'll catch up again soon, of course.
Yeah, no problem. And sorry about yesterday morning. It was just a crazy morning in terms of, getting articles up and timing of press conferences and everything. So
no, the whole thing was chaotic between trying to get the press conference going. We got no Wi-Fi at the Countryside Manor in London. Trust me, totally get it. But I always know when you're able, you'll join, and we love you for it.
Yep. See you, Nordo.
All right. See you. That's Michael Russo of The Athletic to kick off 9 to noon on a Wednesday morning. And TimberTech.com brings you the set list. Parker Fox he was hanging out with the Power Trip Morning Show, and he's going to jump in studio. I got some talkers for him specifically on the hoop side of things with the Wolves and training camp and building up the dream and the end of a season for the Minnesota Lynx, and some pointed comments from Nafisa Collier yesterday that I want to jump into with Parker, plus a little potpourri with Mr. Fox. And at 10 a.m., Ben Gessling of the Star Tribune, and just what's going on over in London. He's actually going to be in studio. I believe he was in Ireland for the Steelers debacle. He is now returned, and we're going to hash it out on the Purple for a couple of long segments. And then PA himself will be joining me from London for the remainder of the show right around 10:45. Brett Blakemore produces. Again, I'm Nordo, in for PA for the moment. Text messages 64686, Bradshaw and Bryant, KFAN text line, talkback machine, open all night. Hit that microphone, give us up to your best 30 seconds. We'll sprinkle them in throughout the show. We also sprinkle in once an hour a giveaway opportunity, and I think Brett's got you handled there.
The Fan and 2 men and a junk truck want to give you a shot to win bonus bucks at the National Cash Contest. Head to KFAN.com. The keyword is Bills for this hour. Keyword Bills. KFAN.com. Keyword Bills. Parker Fox and Nordo now.
Around 10:45. Man, feisty conversations out. So we have Can you tell me again what that award is? Teacher of the Week? Teacher of the Day?
You nominate your Thank a Teacher program.
Just Thank a Teacher program.
Yeah, iHeartRadio's Thank a Teacher.
Appreciate our teachers. Parker Fox is in studio. Do you have, it's tough because, do you have a favorite teacher?
My mom.
Your mom was a teacher.
So not my teacher, but she's a teacher. Both my parents are educators. So
that's easy.
Thank you, Mom and Dad. But probably
someone that actually taught you.
Easiest layup of Parker Fox's life there.
9th grade English. Mr. John Taylor.
John
my guy.
Taylor.
Big Trampled by Turtles fan as well as I am. And was a good English teacher, had some pretty awesome stories, and taught me how to speak English, I guess.
So you strike me, and this is I have to be correct. I assume I am because both your parents were in the education world.
Yeah.
You were probably a good kid.
Yeah, for the most part. I was any trouble I ever got in.
Adjusted.
Yeah, it was just I would always talk too much. I was too outgoing and too social. So like anytime there was conferences, like I never got in trouble for anything bad. It was getting in trouble for just maybe talking out of turn or speaking too much.
So you were excited about what you had to say. You wanted to share with the world, and you just had to kind of figure out when the right time to let it out.
My mom says that I would hold concerts on our electrical box in our neighborhood when I was 4 years old, and she goes, "I knew you were going to be in trouble at school for talking too much if you're doing that at 4 years old." So
similarly, I wouldn't consider myself to be well adjusted. I think I found my way there in young adulthood and such. Emotional maturity, I would say, was a big factor for baby Nordo. But I was going to ask you, and your mom is a teacher, and that's the right answer the whole way. But I was just kind of thinking when I was listening to that, like my favorite teacher when I was a kid, I think is different than my favorite teachers now that I'm an adult.
Totally.
Because I was going when I was listening to Brett read this vibe, this just thank a teacher is. Ms. Linval was my English teacher, also in 9th grade.
Yeah.
I hated her.
Hopefully she's not listening.
You know why? Is because she held me accountable for being the immature disaster that I was. I was sitting there. I'd have laser pen days, just a complete idiot.
Yeah.
I had to be difficult from the teacher's standpoint. Like I feel, and maybe it's just me too self-focused on this, that I was such a factor that they would sit around having a couple of Marlboros in the lounge. Oh, you wouldn't believe they got this Eric Nordquist coming along. But Ms. Linval, my 9th grade English teacher, as a kid, couldn't stand her.
Yeah.
As an adult, Mr. Sipe was my 10th grade social studies teacher. Mr. Roxwald, senior.
Look at this,
government.
Man.
Well, no, I just started, but he got me thinking, like, as a kid, you like what?
Totally.
You push buttons, you test the electric fence for weaknesses.
That's what you're supposed to do, right?
And you want to get away with everything. And now that I'm just old and, I just, not that I have nothing going for me, but I mean, it's just, I've kind of leveled myself out and seen a few things and a little more mature. Become an adult. That's the easy way to put it. I look back and I think, I should have sent them thank you cards.
Totally.
I shouldn't have been just upset, the easiest teacher. No, it was the teacher that made me think a little bit and kept me in line because I was just a complete clown.
Yeah.
And I made her life hell, I believe, for the majority of my freshman year. And so now, props to, thank a teacher. She's probably retired by now. Ms. Linval.
There you go.
Mankato West. I appreciate
It's a lot easier for her to just kind of let it fly and let you be a dummy, but it's harder to actually like batten down the hatches and try to actually influence your young mind. So
it was a test of will.
Totally.
And I will say this, she won.
They always do.
I got to meet the assistant principal on more than a handful of occasions over the course
I love it.
of my first 2 years in high school at Mankato West. Go Scarlets. Parker Fox at Parker Fox 24 via X. Back to the sports side of things. Wolves training camp.
Yeah, we're back, baby.
We're getting audio. We're getting practices. I did want to play this for you because I get some talkers off that. I do want to jump into the links, and 97's got a new contract. There's a cool potpourri of things that are taking place.
Certainly.
But Mike Conley was talking yesterday and specifically about his role and just really put it all. His entire existence right now with the Howl appears to be about raising Rob Dillingham.
Like I tell Rob, man, I'm here for him, honestly. I could care less about who's, taking my minutes, is Dante or him or whoever. Like, man, I want y'all to be the best y'all can be, and I'm helping him at any point. Like, I'm helping him when he's guarding me during a 5-on-5 game. I'm telling him, hey, the screen's coming, get your leg over this way. Like, just trying to make sure he's getting this stuff right in real time. Because I know, this will be his show, whether it's now or 6 months or a year, whatever it is, it's his thing. So he's got to be able to process and be able to for the moment, learn as much as he can, and I'm just here for that.
Of the things that I am here for, I'm here for many things, Parker. Seeing Rob Dillingham and what that jump is.
Yeah.
Now, he didn't inspire me with his press conference. He just doesn't have much to say.
Yeah.
He's just a kid. He's here. He's going to play. He's going to do his thing.
Soft-spoken.
Going to do whatever Finchy tells him to do, and that's cool. But among the things that I am here for, I'm here for that being a bigger factor in 2025, 2026 with camp going around the way. Rob Dillingham, your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I mean, first thing I go to is you look at their age. Mike's 37 going on 38. Rob can't even go down to the liquor store and buy a bottle of alcohol. He's under 21. So it's like you have to have some sort of influence, right? And it's nice that Mike Conley gets to have influence while he gets $11 million every year. But there's not a better guy to learn from. I think Mike Conley's a guy throughout his career and throughout ever since I watched the NBA, Mike Conley was a guy I always loved to watch. My dad was always like, we need Mike Conley on the Wolves. We need Mike Conley on the Wolves. And it came into fruition, and he's been such a great asset. Yeah, he's been a great asset on the floor, coming off ball screens. He's so gifted with both hands, right hand floater, left hand floater, the whole bit. But I truly do believe that where he's speaking right there is coming from the truth. Like, he knows at 37 years old, like, I don't have much NBA left in me, but I care about this team. I care about my teammates. I care about this organization. What can I give back to a young 20-year-old Rob Dillingham? And I think that is just the experience of doing this for so long. And you just don't know what you don't know at 20. And what an opportunity for Mike to give that back to Rob. And I think it's going to be extremely beneficial in Rob's future and his career. And hopefully, Rob wins plenty of championships with this Wolves team and the whole bit, and he gives it back to Mike Conley. But that's what it's all about right there. You spend so much time with these guys, and a lot of people, that's the cliche answer, right? Like, oh, I'm giving back to my teammates, but I'm sure he has genuine love for Rob, and he wants to see the success that Rob can have.
I think that's real. And you know what? You don't know what you don't know at 40 either.
Exactly.
There's no doubt about it. You know what I didn't anticipate, or I didn't know that I would know?
Yeah.
I think the Wolves are like the most stable operation among our core four right now.
We were just talking about it this morning. We were like, where do you feel the most stable in our core four? And it's obvious. Well, they've been to the conference finals the last 2 years. That helps, obviously. But I do think the stability of the roster, like, you retain basically your whole roster. You lose Nickeil Alexander-Walker, but like, Naz Reid's a free agent last year. He could have gone anywhere. And yeah, it's nice that we can give him $22 million to stay here. Yeah. But he could have gone anywhere and started on a lot of teams. He's probably not going to start for this Wolves team next year.
No, he will not.
You'll go with Gobert and Randall. Like, he's not going to be a starter. So you have the opportunity to go make more money and start elsewhere. So it speaks to Tim Conley. It speaks to Chris Finch. It speaks to this organization on kind of what they value. And Naz obviously, saw a lot of value in that, and that's why he stays home.
With the NFL, the lifeblood of an NFL roster is the draft. And you think about the development process, and unless you're a certified fresh superstar in the NHL, we're not going to see you right away. Mm-hmm. And in baseball, correct. I mean,
ridiculous. Trying to make the majors is like impossible.
So getting to the show is a small miracle in itself. But the amount of time and part of it's just, this is clear, 15, 16 guys on a roster. It's easier to reshape that in a shorter period of time. So I do get that. In some ways, but the way that this thing has changed. Yeah. And it really, in some ways, just started with taking Anthony Edwards. And idiots like me at one point who, I must admit this, I shouldn't admit this on the radio. And this is going to fit this text line. Nordo went from being a clown when he was younger to being a producer for a clown now that he is older.
I always love that.
Ooh! 64686, Bradshaw and Bryant, KFAN text line. I love them all. Send them all, whatever the opinion. But pre-draft, Parker, we still had Cat. So I just want to put that in there. We still had Cat. I wanted the team to take James Wiseman.
No.
Prior to the draft.
Don't say it.
Prior to the draft. That is such an idiot. I mean, the spirit of the idea, I think, could be valid from the standpoint, like I wanted to pull Cat out of the 5 spot, wanted him to shoot more, specifically from the outside.
Smart. He does that well.
So I wanted a guy on the interior, James Wiseman. And I don't have his game logs in front of me.
You don't want to.
But I think I could write it. I think I could write his career game log like on a bar napkin.
Yeah.
And no big deal, Anthony Edwards has ascended to the heights upon which he has.
I'm similar.
And that sparked the change.
I'm similar to you. I remember going to bed in tears in 2015 when we decided to take Karl Anthony Towns over Jahlil Okafor. Being a Duke fan, seeing what he did. I was like, why in the heck would we not take Jahlil Okafor? We have the number 1 pick, the whole deal. He's the best player. That came back to brain. I remember I had a buddy who was like trying to talk some sense into me, and I was like emotional. I was like, I really wanted Jahlil. I wanted Okafor. And
Okafor was awesome, though.
Unbelievable. He had his way every single game in Duke. That right-hand hook, that left-hand hook. But clearly, Karl was more NBA talent ready, and obviously that's showing over time. But I just remember being so mad that we took Karl Anthony Towns over Jahlil Okafor. So that might even be worse than the Wiseman bit.
Well, I'm 90%. You want to hear some, and this is, I'm not trying to one up. We are all victims of being on the radio and having terrible opinions that are potentially podcastable.
Of course.
With the free iHeartRadio app. I'm just verifying something, though, to make sure that my memory is correct. Yes, I am. Okay. There were more than one conversation on these airwaves, 9 to noon, not about Jahlil Okafor. Willie Cauley-Stein.
Oh, man.
I know.
So I got a fun, kind of not Willie Cauley-Stein story, but my teammate in high school played baseball at Kentucky. So he had all these Willie Cauley-Stein stories and how talented he is and how good of a pro he's going to be. So I was like, let's get him in Minnesota.
Yeah.
I'm looking up his stats. The last NBA stats he had was the 2022 season where he averaged 1 point and 2 rebounds.
So
bad news.
End of the equation. Was Anthony a Gerson pick? Was that a Rosas pick?
I think so.
Okay. Well,
I don't even know. It's a good question.
Well, regardless, it doesn't matter. It's good that we weren't in charge.
Yeah.
Of that particular draft.
Totally.
Because Anthony has totally worked out. And just kind of all the conversations, I saw this too. Can you picture, and it was fun getting Naz's perspective on it, and we all know Anthony Edwards, but it almost has to work this way. When you have a personality like Anthony Edwards, and I guess this is kind of extrovert, introvert territory, I feel like within a group of friends, you kind of gotta
Totally.
even some of that out, right?
Yeah.
Like, I would consider you not to be an introvert in the truest sense, but you don't strike me as a guy that dominates every conversation. And so maybe you have a few buddies of yours that you're going to be listening maybe more than you're talking in those conversations.
I've become more introverted over time.
You have? Okay, okay. Well, Anthony Edwards it feels like he could never be friends with another Anthony Edwards.
Never.
So he found a guy, Jaden McDaniels.
It's a good one. That's a good one to go with there.
But I was just like, they were talking about it at camp, and Nas just kind of appreciating, like he's been going through some awful personal stuff,
he's had
right?
a tough couple of months here,
and just kind of the friendships that matter, and we just think about them as hoopers, and that's the end of it. But these are humans, and just how those guys have gelled as a group, and part of that is keeping these guys in the house together.
Totally.
But I'm just trying to pick, like, what is it like a hangout look like with Anthony Edwards and Jaden McDaniels, where is Jaden just secretly like the most gregarious and talkative person ever, or is he just nodding and laughing at Ant the whole time?
I've hung out with Jaden one time, and it's kind of ironic you mentioned that because I was thinking about it this morning. I was like, I was watching some of these interviews from Media Day, and I was like, I wonder if Jaden remembers the time we went to the mall together. I was close friends with Nate Knight. He was on the roster probably 3-4 years ago. It was my birthday, and he asked to go to the mall, so we went to the mall together. Jaden was there, the whole deal. And I don't think Jaden spoke a word. Like, I don't think I met him, shook his hand, the whole deal. I don't think he really even spoke a word. Like, he was just there to get his shopping done. He had probably $15,000 in $100 bills in his pocket, just like casually carrying it around, the whole deal. And I don't remember him speaking a word. So I imagine an Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels hangout sesh is, well, they're probably playing video games. Ant's probably trash talking. And I'm sure Jaden is just completely laughing the whole time because anything Anthony Edwards says is just absolutely hilarious.
Never says he's probably having a delightful time.
Oh,
though.
yeah. Oh, no doubt.
But
I think
no emotion whatsoever.
I think anybody that hangs out around Ant is probably having a delightful time. Like, what a just a personality. Like, he's such a unique person. We've seen all the interviews. We've seen just Marnie being stunned by some of his interview questions. Like, those are one of my favorite deals, just watching Marnie's reaction to some of his answers. But no, I think that just shows you this team, right? Like, you need different types of personalities. You have your leader in Mike. You have your comedian in Ant. You have your weird foreign guy in Rudy. Like, it meshes so well. And Jaden, we all see these different like pictures of him, like the stoic face, the non-emotion face. And I truly do think that's who he is. And I love following his fiance / girlfriend or on X because she's hilarious with it too. She's always like, she buys into the whole bit. She's such a Timberwolves like rube. It's amazing.
To the team itself moving forward, what is kind of your A topic with this squad? Like we've heard all the bits, like okay, Ant needs to finish better at the rim,
totally does,
and Finchie still focusing on the three and all of this. Like what bounces out to you is like, okay, now that they're in camp, which is kind of cool. I think about it every time we do our first show down in Eagan for Vikings training camp. There's kind of this new life, right? It's this energy boost. Similarly, actually, just talking with Wolves PR, we're going to try and effort a show at Wolves camp here. So we're going to try and figure that out. But what is kind of the A topic as new life is kind of breathed into our lungs here upon the kind of the eve of an NBA season? What's hitting you with this squad?
Yeah, I think just being a more tough, resilient, kind of just like nothing affects us, brush it off the shoulder type of team, right? Because you look at this league and you look at the talent across the league, it's undeniable how good the West is, right? Like every night's going to be a battle. Like they'll have some games where it's like you're playing Utah or you're playing, I don't know, name a bad team, like maybe even like Atlanta or something like that. You're playing a not as good team.
Like the Wizards or
like you get a little break, right? On
Hornets.
Those nights. But you can't have those breaks. Like
Utah Jazz.
Yeah, there you go. But even those games, like you have to find ways to not just have an off night, right? Yeah. Like you have to you have to start thinking a little bit more selfish as a team, right? Like Anthony Edwards, you're the best player. Like there's no reason you shouldn't go out and get 40 that night because one, it helps your scoring average. Right. It leads you to an MVP conversation. And two, it helps your team because your team is looking to you to do that kind of stuff. So I think for me is just like taking every day one by one and just completely being a more mature, being a more tough team. And then that leads to, hey, we're in the Western Conference Finals now. We're playing a team in Dallas or we're playing a team in Oklahoma City who they're kind of even with us, but because we've been so tough all year, because we've been so resilient all year, we feel confident in getting to that, that NBA Finals. So I think that comes from the organization. I think it comes from Chris Finch and the way he coaches and the staff. But at the end of the day, you have to have a team that's bought in to figure out, hey, this is the type of team we're going to be. We're going to be whatever you may be. But I think be the toughest team you can be leads to a lot of success because you already have the talent. Like you already have it. You have the talent. You've been to the Western Conference Finals 2 years now. Now, how do you get over that hump? And I think it's just being a little tougher and being a little bit more resilient.
Well, I like that. The toughness and the resilience is, and I think it plays into one thing I'm excited about is not have to talk about the technical fouls and some of and I think in some ways you can gravitate to that as low-hanging fruit versus just digging deeper into the wins and losses. but it did become a factor at times a year ago.
Yeah.
And just part of that toughness and resilience is if we're not getting what we need at that particular point, we're just going to mow forward.
And that's where I go to, like, in Anthony Edwards is a leader. You can't be suspended for games. Like, you can't miss games. And I know the NBA is, it's a league where guys have a lot of freedom to talk to the refs, right? Like, there's a lot of talking to the refs. You go sit courtside at an NBA game and you listen to the way these guys talk to the refs. Like,
the conversations are unbelievable.
1,000%, I get it. But if you want to be a championship team, you can't let that little stuff affect you, from the refs, from the fans, from the environment. Like, you have to be so detail oriented, so tough to realize, hey, we're going to be in the Western Conference Finals again, but we're going to win it this time because we've figured out all the other little stuff. Yeah, we're talented enough, but there's so much that goes into winning. There's so much that it takes to win a championship, and you have to be pretty freaking tough. So I think that's where I kind of look towards is, yeah, the refs might be a thing. Yeah, the fans might be a thing, but nothing affects you. You're so stoic. You're so into it that, like, nothing matters. We're going to be there and we're going to win.
Well, speaking of toughness and resilience.
Yeah.
I got to ask you about this. Nafisa Collier. It's kind of good night to the WNBA season, sadly. Bounced by Phoenix in 4. Nafisa, among other things, I'll play a snippet here of her presser yesterday, just dragging the league and specifically leadership.
We have the best players in the world. We have the best fans in the world. But right now, we have the worst leadership in the world. If I didn't know exactly what the job entailed, maybe I wouldn't feel this way. But unfortunately for them, I do. We serve a league that has shown they think championship coaches and Hall of Fame players are dispensable, and that's fine. It's professional sports. But I will not stand quietly by and allow different standards to be applied at the league level.
Okay, so Nafisa, and she would go on. She would talk about the commissioner, maybe a private conversation that took place, and just kind of throwing some weight around a little bit, at least in terms of how Nafisa framed it out. Just, hey, you ladies wouldn't have the platform without us. And so that's just kind of how it is. Get in line. Nafisa ain't having it. I'll tell you, it was a thoughtful, prepared statement.
Yeah.
And she let her rip.
Totally.
Tons of respect for Nafisa.
Yeah.
Could have used that from the coach.
Yeah, right. Where's Cheryl?
Could have used that thoughtful, prepared, measured approach maybe from the coach. Not to say that they would have absolutely beaten Phoenix, after that injury and such to Nafisa and moved on. But as we talked about on Monday, kind of tough to go on the road without your best player and your coach and find your way to a W. But just kind of, anything as a couple days have gone by, and just any thoughts on how that moves forward. Because what I got from it, and you can see it and everything's on social now, is she spoke to the sentiment that a significant number of players have about this league and about the situation. You got pay in the mix, and that's TV deals, that's revenue and stuff, and that can get tenuous when we're talking about people's paychecks here. But in particular to just the organizational leadership atop the WNBA, Nafisa spoke through the hearts of many that are on the hardwood in this league, and now you kind of put the commissioner, Engelbert, I think is her name.
Yeah, Kathy. Yep.
Kathy and company kind of on. You kind of said your move, jackasses. Yeah. What's next? It's just there's a little bit of drama there in the midst of for a league that is probably trying to focus their attention on the upcoming finals series.
Yeah. Well, it has to come from a player, right, Nordo? Like, it can come from Cheryl Reeves. It can come from Becky Hammond. It can come from, the best coaches in the league. But in order to make a change, it has to be player-led. And I think there's not a better player in this league to kind of lead that than Nafisa, especially with what you've seen her do with Unrivaled, her husband, Alex, He's heading up that league, So this was it was a very well written deal. You could tell that I doubt she sat down alone and wrote this thing by herself. I'm sure there was other people kind of helping her write this thing. And then to link in the Caitlin Clark, Paige Beckers, Angel Reese thing is intelligent because now you have her fans backing you up. At the end of the day, you're trying to support your league mates. So then they're all going to X and they're writing, I agree with Fee and Speak the Truth Fee and this whole deal. And now
Angel Reese loved it.
Oh, exactly. So now you fast forward to now, and I think there's already talk that when the CBA happens in the next month that she's going to be stepping down, the commissioner, and there's no truth to that yet, but you can just see the power it has coming from Fee versus coming from a Cheryl Reeves or a coach or a staffer or something like that. So I give a lot of credit to her too. It takes a lot to speak up and And yeah, when you're one of the best in the league, it helps, right? Like there's less consequences if you're like a 6th or 7th, woman on the roster.
Right.
But yeah, credit to her and credit to saying something and stepping up. And now we've seen Asia Wilson make some comments agreeing with Fee and the whole deal. I think it's tough because when you're so talented and when you're at the top of your game, you don't want to do anything that's going to kind of undermine the money you're bringing in, the face you have, the way your peers look at you. But she said, screw it. And she let it feel how she was feeling. She let it rip. And I give her a lot of power and I'm excited to see hopefully some real changes made, because hopefully this isn't like a conversation for a week and then we forget about it and it all happens again. Right.
Yeah.
Like hopefully real conversations are had, real changes are made, and this league can go to good places, because it's true. Like there's no reason why Paige Beckers and Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese should make $70,000 in their first year. They're bringing in more money than that. Like let's compensate them the way they deserve to be compensated. Yeah, she's making money off the court, but some of the comments that this Kathy Engelbert made are just disgusting. Like it's not the way a leader should comment. So a lot of credit to Fee, and I'm hoping they see some true change.
Hey, thanks for hanging out with me, man.
Of course.
And appreciate it, whether it's the Power Trip or 9 to noon. Your support and your presence is always appreciated. Have a terrific week.
That's right.
And hopefully, if you're joining us on Monday, we'll be talking about a W.
That's right.
We'll be talking about Vikings 3-2 into the bye.
Yep.
And some optimism.
Brian Flores 5-0 against rookie quarterbacks.
Oh, really? There we go. See, that's a nugget to chew on 9 to noon. There we go. That's Parker Fox at Parker Fox 24 via X. And just a reminder here, Shorty around the corner, but 10 a.m., Ben Gessling, Star Tribune's going to be in studio as we transition into some Vikings-related conversation. PA will be joining in earnest from London around 10:45. It's Nordo in for PA for now, 9 to noon. Russo's got me worried about this Juracek cat. Do I need to be worried?
He certainly sounded the alarms. Personally, I don't think so, but even if he's making mistakes, you traded a first-round pick for him. And I get hockey drafts, NHL drafts are different, and it takes time. Not everyone is going to be, your Zeev this first round, and he immediately comes from college. But that's a high price to pay in my mind to sit out the first round. You have to give him more time. And the Brodin injury, unfortunately, gives him an opportunity, but I hope he takes it. I'm not worried personally, but it's just a lot to invest to give up on a guy in preseason.
The contract, where's your head at on it?
I love it. I think you have to do it. You don't get superstars that come around very often, and this franchise Gabrick was the closest to a pure superstar, and I don't think he's very close to where Kaprizov is. A true game-changing forward, you just can't let that guy go. I get it's a lot of money, and I was under the impression that McDavid would be the highest paid in a week or two. Apparently not, according to Russo earlier. Even so, it's something you have to do, and you can't, because I would rather, we've had a roster full of good to above average guys for 25 years. It hasn't gotten us anything. And to spread out the cap hasn't done us anything. I don't think we're going to be as much cap hell as people think. I think I read something like $23 million in cap space next year. That could be completely wrong. But the point is, I like it, and I think you had to do it, and I'm happy they got it done.
Well, I was thinking about it yesterday, and it's not even the money. The money is gaudy. The money is daunting. That's a fat number. There's no doubt. And it's historic. And you're thinking about 13-year deals back in 2011, 2012, whenever that happened with Parisi and Suter. So you're thinking about all that. But I was actually, my first inclination, especially around State Fair time when, this thing felt tenuous and it was starting to is this an issue here? Like, what do you do if you don't get it done? Mm-hmm. Like, it's just like Kaprizov, maybe the final 2 years of the contract, he's older, we can try to project out, health history and all of this, even though, is it health issues as much as, specifically the cat from the Jets, just absolutely just jumping on him effectively. What was that, 22, 23 when he had that injury, and he was doing the splits and someone landed on him just before the playoffs maybe. But what happens if you don't? Like, what's the setback? Like, we have this idea in our heads, like, well, with that extra money, we can just go and get guys. Well, except we kind of
couldn't.
We kind of had that idea during free agency, and everyone just re-signed with their teams, and everyone just found a way because, in some ways, of the cap going up. and you were just, I can't believe they kept Marchand and Bennett, and I'm thinking maybe Ekblad. I think they kept all three of them in Florida. You're thinking, okay, maybe we can go to the retread machine with a Matt Duchene. Oh, he re-signs with his team, and the list goes on in terms of what we thought we would get, and then it's like, oh, Nico Sturm. Well, he's good at faceoffs, so that's good. Which actually,
penalties.
Which I think it was a reasonable pickup. That's not an indictment of Sturm. My point is just simply, okay, so we don't get it done. Then what? Now you're if you're negative on it, right? Like you'd be asking for Bill Guerin's head immediately, but you're also now still mad that they gave him all that money. It's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't. But I hope people kind of keep in the back of their head at some point, like if we hadn't kept Kaprizov, it's not as easy as just playing NHL 2K and you can just take $17 million back into your pocket and then just redistribute it to two high-enders. It's not really a feasible or realistic way to look at it. And the potential fallout that would ensue, not just from again, the team missing that greatness, but if I'm some of the other guys on the team and we're ending up potentially trading Kaprizov even prior to the season, think about air coming out of the building with that. But if it's a deadline move or something, you start, because that domino falls, number 97 falls, other dominoes will have to fall over the course of this season as well. So you just keep that perspective in mind if you're super negative on the deal. Although I will say, again, I'm not trying to create boogeymen that don't exist. For the most part, it's been overwhelmingly positive, I think. Mm-hmm. And I think most people see that. We got 97th Street up on West 7th and St. Paul. Nicely done, everybody involved with that. Like, it's super cool that despite some of the sweating on our end, and again, chill Bill just giving us nothing for like 3 months, that it was able to get done. So kudos to the Minnesota Wild for figuring that out, and a total 9 more years, it sounds like, of number 97. So I dig that. We are going to pause, and when we return, transition to the purple. Ben Gessling, Star Tribune, covers the Minnesota Vikings. He was in Ireland, and now he's stateside, and we're going to chat in studio here on your favorite football team, the Minnesota Vikings, the Cleveland Browns, Dylan Gabriel, Myles Garrett, JJ practicing. There's a lot to get into with Gessling around the corner. It's 9 to noon on the Fan.